Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to just think for a second about a rapidly growing megacity. You know, one of its most invisible yet absolutely biggest challenges is, what on earth do we do with the daily mountains of waste? Well, today we're unpacking a massive, really ambitious solution. We're talking about the new master plan for zone-based waste management in the province of DKI Jakarta. We're going to take a detailed look at the foundational blueprints designed to tackle this literally monumental task. It's an incredible look into the nuts and bolts of large-scale urban planning, and we're going to break the whole thing down step by step.
All right, let's dive right into this. The entire foundation of this initiative rests on one core concept, Pangalahan Sapa Berbasis Kawasan, which basically translates to zone-based waste management. You see, instead of the old, kind of clunky model of hauling everything out to one giant dump on the outskirts of town, this plan does the exact opposite. It decentralizes the whole shebang. It's all about organizing the infrastructure so that waste is actually managed, sorted, and processed right within specific, localized community zones. It's a super fascinating, agile way to take a megacity's overwhelming output and segment it into these highly efficient little hubs.
Now, driving this entire decentralized vision is a single organizational force, and that is Koperasi KBML, or Borneo Makmur Loenjinawi. You can kind of think of them as the unifying umbrella, right? The central collaborative force that's conceptualizing and really building out this entirely new waste management ecosystem. It's always super important to recognize the driving entities behind these massive urban plans, and KBML is clearly the central banner uniting this major infrastructural push. So what's really interesting about how they're approaching this is that to pull off something this massive, the planners couldn't just, write one vague manifesto and hope for the best. Instead, they strategically split the master plan into two highly focused, completely complementary pillars. On one side of the coin, you have the physical layout. We're talking the concrete, the civil engineering, the architecture, and spatial design. But then, on the flip side, you have the operational logistics. This is the technology, the heavy machinery, and the actual physical tools needed to bring that space to life. It's just a perfectly mapped out pairing of form and function.
Let's unpack that first physical pillar a bit. The official documentation calls this the DED, which stands for Detail Engineering Design. And listen, we aren't just talking about a rough sketch on a napkin here. Just think about how incredibly dense Jakarta already is, right? This blueprint maps out the literal, physical footprints down to the centimeter of exactly where these facilities are going to fit into the existing urban maze. It details the precise dimensions and spatial requirements for every single zone.
And what's cool is this physical blueprint builds from the ground up, kind of like interlocking puzzle pieces. It doesn't just treat the sprawling city as one giant monolith. No, it specifically maps out spatial layouts starting right down at your local neighborhood level, which is known as the RW. From there, it scales up to the wider village or sub-district level, the Kelurahan. And finally, it plans for the even wider district level, the Kecamatan. By doing it this way, they're custom-sizing the infrastructure to make absolutely sure it's spatially situated for every single tier of the community.
But here is the crucial catch, right? A beautifully engineered facility is totally useless if it's completely empty. And that brings us to the second core pillar, the operational hardware. This document actually breaks the logistics down into three vital categories. First, you have technology for all the underlying software and tech systems. Next is machine for the heavy processing machinery and units. And finally, alat, which covers the day-to-day gear, shovels, and tools for the workers right there on the ground. This is literally the exact roadmap required to actually sort and process the waste within those physical zones.
Now, when you step back for a second, the macro scale of these operational needs is just staggering. These documents aren't just for some small-scale pilot program. They are forecasting the machinery and tech required for the entirety of Provinsi DKI Jakarta, the whole province. I mean, just imagine trying to calculate the exact number of conveyor belts, trucks, and software licenses needed to handle the daily footprint of millions and millions of people. It's a mind-boggling logistical undertaking, basically taking a highly localized concept and scaling it up to become a massive, province-wide reality.
So, when you put it all together, the complete vision of this initiative really comes into sharp focus. On one hand, you've got the spatial engineering, plotting out the physical neighborhoods and districts. On the other hand, you have this incredibly detailed table of equipment, machinery, and tech to actually fill them. Together, under the KBML cooperative, they form a unified, two-pronged roadmap. One tells the province exactly where and how to build, and the other tells them exactly what heavy equipment to put inside. It is just a highly structured, wonderfully comprehensive framework for a modern urban utility.
As we wrap up this explainer,
We all know the true test of this master plan isn't going to be on paper. It's going to be out there in the real world. Will this meticulous, two-pronged approach actually successfully tame the waste management challenges of one of the world's most dynamic megacities? Well, if Jakarta can execute this massive decentralized shift both physically and operationally, they might just write the ultimate playbook for literally every growing city on Earth. It's an absolutely fascinating case study in urban sustainability, so what do you think? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible blueprint today.